Hey Optimancers, Chris here. The Tal'Dorei campaign setting Reborn from Critical Role is now available on D&D Beyond, and in this series I'm looking at the subclasses and feats, and today I'm looking at the Moon Domain Cleric. So, thematically, I wonder if we actually need a Moon Domain. I mean, we already have the Twilight Domain, which is fulfilling a similar theme. Then again, I've made it no secret that I think the Twilight Domain is overpowered, so maybe we'll get a similarly themed domain that's better balanced here. So here's our domain spells. Generally, with the domain spells for clerics, I'm looking for some non-cleric spells that do things clerics normally aren't great at. Moonbeam is an obvious spell thematically, but I would be looking at spells like Fairy Fire when maybe I'm first or second level, and Hypnotic Pattern once I get to 5th level for some pretty good non-cleric spells. This is not an amazing list, but it's decent. And then we have one feature at first level, so no additional weapon or armor proficiencies here. We get just the one feature, Clarity of Katha. When a creature you can see within 30 feet of you makes a wisdom saving throw, you can use your reaction to give them advantage on the saving throw. This has a limit of proficiency bonus times per long rest. And this feature is okay, but it's not so powerful that I think the limited use is required. Though I would imagine on most days it's probably enough to have you covered for every time you would want to use this. Although the wording implies that you're using this on allies, mechanically nothing here prevents you from using it on yourself if you want to get advantage on your own wisdom saving throws. I like to make my saving throws, and I like my allies to make theirs too, so I kind of have a soft spot for these kinds of features, but considering that there is a reaction required, just one kind of saving throw is covered, and the limited use, I can't say this is strong, but it's a passable feature. At second level, we actually get two more options for Channel Divinity, though I think one is a lot better than the other. Blessing of the Watchful Moon and Blessing of the Blood-Drenched Moon. Either one can be applied to an ally within 30 feet that you can see as an action. Once again, nothing mechanically prevents you from applying this to yourself. Blessing of the Watchful Moon gives the target a speed increase of 10 and advantage on perception and survival checks, either involving smell or for tracking for 1 hour. Blessing of the Blood-Drenched Moon lasts 10 minutes, and the target has advantage on attack rolls if an ally is within 5 feet of the target, so basically like qualifying for sneak attack. And the second option here is the powerful one. Weapon users get a huge boost from getting advantage, and if you played a rogue, you'll know that getting that ally within 5 feet isn't that hard to set up, especially if there are familiars in play, even more if those familiars are invisible imps. But if there's a frontliner in your party, good chance they're next to an enemy. Who is going to benefit most from this depends on your party. But something like a fighter, whether they're an archer or a melee paladin, those kinds of characters, they're going to be a good bet. 10-minute duration is long enough that there is a decent chance you can set this up outside of combat, and that saves you the action that would be required to activate this. And Channel Divinity comes back on a short rest, so there's a reasonable chance that a 10-minute duration will get you to your next short rest, at which point you can activate it again. This is a pretty strong Channel Divinity option. I mean, it's strong enough that I might even consider, if I was playing a weapon-using character, looking at the possibility of a 2-level dip into the Moon Domain Cleric just so I could use this feature for myself. And then at 6th level, you get Mind of Two Moons, and Matt Mercer, why? We were doing so well. There are some exploits in the game that allow concentrating on 2 spells at once, like a Chronergist Wizard's Familiar using an Arcane Abeyance to concentrate on a spell for you, which Matt Mercer was also responsible for, by the way. So this one allows the Moon Cleric to concentrate on 2 spells at once by expending their Channel Divinity as long as both spells are domain spells, but they have disadvantage on concentration saving throws. So that would be a serious penalty, but it's easy enough to patch with a bit of optimization. You take a 2-level dip in Druid, and you're already wisdom based, so that's easy enough. And if you become a Stars Druid, then you use the Dragon Starry form. Now you can't roll below a 10 plus your modifiers on the concentration saving throw, even with disadvantage. Now you can have 2 hypnotic patterns going at the same time, or think about this, greater invisibility plus hypnotic pattern. You can see where this could be a problem. There is a reason why the concentration mechanic exists. And as much as players complain about martial caster divides, there's no question that the concentration mechanic prevents that divide from becoming even more gaping. So this is probably too powerful. No, that's too conservative. This is definitely too powerful. It is very short-sighted to allow a full caster to bypass the concentration mechanic. Anyways, at least I know how this works, unlike the 6th level feature for the Blood Domain Cleric, so it does have that. But just be aware, it's really, really powerful. Then at level 8, Empowered Cantrips increases the damage on your Cleric cantrips by your Wisdom modifier, and that's pretty standard. And at level 17, Eclipse of Ill Omen allows you to, once per long rest, with a bonus action, set up a 60-foot aura that is covered in dim light that overrides any previous lighting conditions. This lasts up to a minute using your concentration. So get ready for this. Here's what it does. Your enemies within 60 feet have disadvantage on all their saving throws. If you do radiant damage to any of these enemies, once per turn, you can halve the speed of the creature, and it can't regain hit points, not for a round or until you apply it to somebody else. It's until the eclipse ends, so you can actually apply this to multiple creatures. And you can double up your concentration with this using your Mind of Two Moons feature. So you start a combat, bonus action, set this up. It's not a spell, so it doesn't restrict casting spells with your action. So you use your Channel Divinity so you can cast Hypnotic Pattern. All targets have disadvantage on their saving throws against that Hypnotic Pattern, so they're pretty much screwed unless they have legendary resistances. Now at least there's a limit with the number of times that you can recast Hypnotic Pattern, because you would have to spend a Channel Divinity each time, and you do have limited Channel Divinities, so that limitation at least exists. Otherwise, maybe some Flame Strikes. I normally would never cast Flame Strike, but it will automatically do some radiant damage, so you have the speeds and block healing with no saving throw. And that one doesn't use concentration, so you can do it at the same time as you have a Hypnotic Pattern, as well as this going. And all your enemies also have disadvantage on all their saving throws against all your allies' stuff as well, automatically. And that is the Moon Domain Cleric. So where does it rank among the other Cleric subclasses? I mean, we have 2 subclasses for Cleric that are already quite broken, and that's Twilight and Peace up there in S tier, where I put broken subclasses, and this one definitely belongs there as well. And I had to think about where it would rank in comparison to Twilight and Peace, and I think I'm going to rank it behind them. And the reason is because the Moon Domain at least doesn't become drastically overpowered until level 6. But I'll tell you what though, at level 17, it is the most powerful subclass, period. If this subclass is something you're considering allowing in your campaigns, just be careful. The same way you'd be careful throwing around spell storing rings. Like, if the Moon Domain Cleric player is inexperienced or doesn't even really try to optimize too much, this subclass might not be a problem. Having a Moonbeam and a Fairy Fire going at the same time isn't breaking anything, especially if the Cleric's concentration is easily broken. Just be aware that in the right hands, or maybe I should say in the wrong hands, this subclass will be extremely powerful. And that's the Moon Domain Cleric. In my next video in this series, I'm going to be looking at the Circle of the Blighted Druid. Hope you'll join me for that. Otherwise, until next time, I am going to sit back, relax, and have some fun. D&D is for everyone. Thanks everybody, and I'll talk to you soon.